What if I told you there's a belief that's been quietly running your life like a background app, draining your energy, killing your momentum, and keeping you stuck, and you don't even realize it's there? Because here's the thing, it's not the world, it's not your job, not your family, not the economy, not even bad luck. It's this one belief that's been shaping your decisions, your confidence, your habits, and even your future without your permission. It sounds small, invisible even, but it shows up every time you hesitate, every time you doubt yourself, every time you say, maybe later, I'm not ready, or I could never do that. You think you're being realistic. You think you're being smart. But actually, you're being programmed. And the worst part? It didn't even start with you. Somewhere along the way, someone planted this seed. Maybe it was a teacher who made you feel small, a parent who warned you not to dream too big, a moment of failure that convinced you you're not good enough. And since then, that one belief has been whispering the same lie over and over again. I'm not the kind of person who succeeds. That's it. That's the belief. I'm not the kind of person who gets what they want. I'm not the kind of person who's confident. I'm not the kind of person who can change. That sentence might not sound loud, but it echoes. It shows up every time you shrink yourself, every time you settle, every time you tell yourself a story that ends with I can't. And here's the brutal truth, as long as you keep believing that about yourself, nothing will change. No course, no book, no coach, no plan is going to stick if deep down you still think you're not that kind of person. So how do you break it? Not by shouting affirmations in the mirror, not by pretending you're fearless, but by doing one very simple thing: prove it wrong. One small action at a time. One moment where you show up when it would have been easier to hide. One choice that your old self would have avoided. One habit that contradicts that belief completely. Because identity isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. And every time you act in a way that goes against that limiting belief, you chip away at its power. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to do something today that your future self would be proud of. Something small. Something real. Something that proves you are exactly the kind of person who changes everything. And listen, if you've made it this far, that belief is already getting weaker. That voice in your head? It's starting to lose its grip. And the moment you realize that belief isn't a truth, just a thought you've been rehearsing, that's the moment everything changes. Because now you're aware. And awareness? That's dangerous to the belief. It can't hide in the background anymore. It can't control you without you noticing. You're seeing it for what it is, a quiet lie you've mistaken for truth. And when you start seeing it show up in your decisions, your excuses, your habits, you get to make a different choice. You'll catch yourself in the middle of thinking, I'm not ready, and realize that's not a fact, it's the belief talking. You'll hear yourself saying, that's just not me, and for the first time, you'll ask, why not? Because that's just not me is a script you didn't even write. It's borrowed, passed down, recycled. And once you stop speaking it like it's your truth, you get to write a new one. And here's what's wild, this doesn't take years. The shift starts the moment you do something the old you would have avoided. That call you've been putting off. That idea you've been sitting on. That thing that scares you because it matters. That's the doorway. That's the proof. And once you walk through it once, you can't unknow that it's possible. You start to build evidence. Not in your head, but in your life. That one email you finally send. That workout you finally show up for. That boundary you finally hold. Every single one becomes a crack in the wall that belief built around you. And with every crack, the light gets in. You start to see a version of yourself that doesn't play by those rules anymore. You won't feel ready. You'll still hear the voice. But you'll stop listening like it's the truth. You'll act anyway. And every time you do, something shifts. The voice gets quieter. The hesitation gets shorter. The bounce back gets faster. And people around you? They start to notice. They'll say you've changed. And they'll be right. But not because you became someone else, because you returned to who you were before that belief got installed. Before you learned to shrink. Before you made fear your compass. Before you believed you had to earn permission to take up space. It's not about becoming fearless, it's about becoming fluent in doing things scared. Over and over until fear becomes background noise and action becomes your instinct. And here's what nobody tells you, you don't need massive wins to change your story. You just need momentum. Forward motion. A new pattern. And that starts with one moment, this moment where you choose not to believe the lie. Not tomorrow. Not when it's comfortable. Right now. Because discomfort is the price of growth and you've already paid the price of staying stuck for long enough. Keep going. You'll notice something else as you keep going. People will project their beliefs onto you. The moment you break your pattern, it unsettles theirs. They might tell you to slow down, be careful, stay realistic. But what they really mean is, don't leave the version of you they're used to. That's not your problem. You're not here to make other people comfortable with your potential. You're here to wake it up. Feed it. Let it breathe. Because the more you move, the more the old labels peel off. The ones that said you were lazy, inconsistent, shy, not enough. You'll realize they were never about who you are, just who you were trained to be. And now that you've stopped waiting for proof before you believe in yourself, the proof starts to show up because you believe. Momentum is a side effect of action. And once you get a taste of it, it's hard to go back. The tiniest progress starts to feel addictive, not because it's easy, but because it's yours. You earned it. Not with perfect plans, but with messy, real, imperfect action. Action that contradicts the belief that says you're not that person. You're becoming that person by being that person. Every time you do the thing, even badly, you're rewriting the code. And yeah, there will be resistance. That voice will evolve, try to disguise itself. It'll say things like, you should be further along, or it's too late, or you messed up, so you may as well quit. But now you know what that is. It's just the belief shapeshifting, hoping you'll fall for the old tricks. You won't. Because once you've felt what it's like to do the thing anyway, to act with doubt still in the room, you realize you don't need silence to move forward. You just need enough courage to not obey. You become the kind of person who shows up tired. Who starts again after slipping. Who doesn't wait for confidence but builds it by showing up scared and doing it anyway. That kind of self-trust? It's unshakable. Because it's not based on hype. It's based on history, your history. Real moments. Real choices. A real track record of not giving up. And when things get hard, and they will, you won't look for a way out. You'll look for the next step. Because struggle doesn't scare you anymore. Stagnation does. That quiet, slow erosion of your potential? That's what you're done tolerating. You don't need the path to be easy. You just need it to be yours. And now it finally is. You'll start noticing things you used to miss. Not just in yourself, but in the world around you. You'll hear the excuses people use and recognize them, not as truths, but as inherited limitations. You'll see someone talk themselves out of an opportunity, and you'll remember when that was you. You'll realize how common it is, how normal it's become to live small. And it won't make you judgmental, it'll make you determined. Because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. It's everywhere. In the way people speak about their dreams like they're optional. In how they laugh off their potential like it's a joke. In how quickly they shrink themselves to make others comfortable. And you'll feel it like a quiet fire in your chest. I'm not going back to that. You'll start catching moments. Micro decisions. A split second where the old you would have hesitated and now you lean in. It won't always feel big. Sometimes it'll be sending the message. Saying yes. Saying no. Taking the damn walk. Waking up 5 minutes earlier. But every single one adds a brick to the foundation you're building. And it's yours. Not borrowed. Not based on someone else's version of success. Yours. You'll stop needing permission. You'll stop waiting for the green light because you'll realize you're the one holding the switch. And suddenly it's not about proving anything to anyone. It's about becoming someone you're proud to be even when nobody's watching. That's where the real shift happens, when you keep promises to yourself not because they're flashy, but because they're sacred. You treat your goals like commitments instead of wishes. You move through resistance like it's part of the deal. You stop flinching when it gets hard and start trusting yourself to figure it out. Not perfectly, but powerfully. And even when the old belief shows up and you meet it differently. Not with fear, but with recognition. You say, oh, there you are. But you don't stop. You've built too much. You've come too far. And you know now that the discomfort of growth is always less painful than the regret of staying stuck. So you keep stacking evidence. You keep showing up. You keep becoming. You'll realize this isn't about motivation anymore. It's not about waiting for the perfect mood, the right timing, or some burst of inspiration that finally makes it easy. Because now you understand it's about discipline, identity, and momentum. It's about making decisions that align with who you're becoming, not who you've been. And the wild part? It starts to feel normal. What used to feel impossible becomes your new baseline. What used to scare you starts to excite you. The stretch becomes the standard. The discomfort becomes a signal not to stop, but to lean in. Because on the other side of it is growth, and you've started to crave that more than comfort. You won't just walk differently. You'll think differently. You'll enter rooms with a new kind of energy. Not loud, not arrogant, but grounded. Solid. Like someone who's done the work not just once, but consistently, quietly, when nobody was clapping. That kind of confidence can't be faked. And people feel it. They start asking questions. They want to know what changed. And you'll smile. Because you'll know it wasn't a big secret. It wasn't a massive breakthrough. It was 1,000 tiny choices made when it was inconvenient. It was showing up when it felt awkward. It was acting before you felt ready. That's what did it. not waiting for the right conditions but moving in spite of them. The world starts to respond differently too. Opportunities begin to show up not because they weren't there before, but because now you're available for them. You're visible to the life that used to pass you by. You stopped hiding behind that belief. You stopped blending into the version of yourself that made everyone else comfortable. And now, things start to happen. You'll begin to notice how much of your old life was designed around limitation, around avoiding risk, around staying small enough to never disappoint anyone, including yourself. And when you step out of that mold, you'll feel resistance, not just from others, but from within. The part of you that was built for survival will flinch. It'll beg you to retreat. It'll remind you of every past failure, every awkward moment, every time you tried and didn't win. But now you know better. You know that voice isn't prophecy, it's a recording. One you didn't even choose. It's a loop that played on repeat until it sounded like truth. And the only way to silence it is to speak louder through your actions, through your courage, through your consistency. And somewhere in the middle of that process, you stop waiting for transformation to feel magical. You stop expecting clarity to show up before commitment. You realize that growth isn't dramatic, it's often quiet, gritty, unglamorous. It's choosing the high road when no one's watching. It's doing the boring work that builds a powerful life. And that's where the real magic lies, in repetition. In the days when you don't feel like it but show up anyway. In the ordinary moments when you choose the aligned option over the easy one. That's what separates those who change from those who just hope for change. The willingness to act when it's not convenient, not flashy, not celebrated. You'll start to see that potential wasn't something you lacked, it was something you buried. And now, with every action you take, you're unearthing it. Brushing the dirt off. Letting it breathe again. It's not about suddenly becoming someone new. It's about peeling away everything that made you forget who you already are. You stop chasing confidence like it's a destination and start building it like muscle. You lift heavier thoughts. You stretch beyond excuses. You hold tension instead of avoiding it. And one day you realize confidence isn't the absence of fear. It's the reputation you've built with yourself from doing hard things over and over again. You stop idolizing motivation. You don't need the fire. You've got the match. You've got the discipline. You've got the why. And even on the days when your legs shake and your voice trembles, you move anyway. Not because it's easy. Not because it's certain. But because it's yours. Because doing this difficult, unseen, steady work is the way forward. And when you look back, it won't be the big wins that defined your path. It'll be the day you didn't hit snooze. The time you spoke up. The night you chose to try again instead of numbing out. The moments no one else noticed, but you did. You'll remember those. Because they built this version of you. The one who's no longer waiting. And when you get here, right here, where your actions speak louder than your doubts, everything begins to shift. Not because the world changed, but because you did. You stopped waiting for permission. You stopped negotiating with fear. You stopped letting that one belief run the show. And maybe it's still there, whispering. That's okay. Let it whisper. You're done listening. You've got evidence now. You've got momentum. You've got a new story playing louder than the old one. This is how it happens. Not all at once. Not with a lightning bolt. But one decision, one step, one moment at a time. You're not who you were when this video started. And if this hits something in you, if you felt seen, or called out, or reminded of what you're capable of, don't keep it to yourself. Like the video. Share it with someone else who needs to hear this. And subscribe if you want more content that pushes you, calls you forward, and reminds you of who the hell you are. Because this isn't the end. This is the start of everything. Keep going.